I'm Jonathan Van Bilsen, and welcome to the 2021 Scugog Mayor's Virtual Update presented by the Scugog Chamber of Commerce. This is our first attempt, and we're hoping the technology will work in our favor. I would ask you all to not unmute yourself, please, during the presentation, and feel free to turn your cameras off as no one will be looking at you as much as we'd like to see the inside of your houses. The program today is being recorded and will be televised on Rogers at a later date, as well as the Chamber of Commerce YouTube channel. Today, we're going to hear from our guests, Mayor Bobbie Drew, Chief Administration Officer Ken Nix, and Manager of Planning Robin Prentice. I also want to make very special mention today of the sponsors for the program: Dana's Goldsmithing, Port Perry Auto Glass, PP Print and Digital Services, and Voss, your independent grocer. When we first sent the link out, we asked people to put in a few questions if they had any, and we received well over 40, which is amazing. So we decided to turn the chat room off because we have more than enough questions. We will not be able to get to all of them, but we will be giving them to the people presenting. They have agreed to answer them at a later date, and then we will put those on the Scugog Chamber's website. So before we start our program with our guest speakers, I'd like to introduce the new chair of the Scugog Chamber of Commerce. That would be Mr. Michael Phillip.
Thank you, John. Yeah, thank you, John, and much appreciated. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Michael Phillip. As John mentioned, I'm here in my new role as the chair of the Scugog Chamber. Like many others, the Chamber has been struggling through the last year. Now, we regularly work to put on many events for our business community and the residents of the Township of Scugog. It is challenging to organize a networking event when we can't get together and enjoy an open chat along with the face-to-face mingling experience. So this is our first go at a virtual presentation like this, so please excuse any hiccups we may have today. And thank you again to everyone participating here today and those watching this stream in the future. We're all evolving in this together and doing our best to make it work. We appreciate the support of our members and the township, as well as regional and provincial governments. Currently, our members here at the Scugog Chamber number close to 250, which represents nearly a third of businesses in Port Perry. Now, at the Chamber of Commerce, we provide our members with support and knowledge sharing, including information regarding the emergency grants, loans, and benefits available for businesses, which are coming from regional, provincial, and federal levels. We continue to assist our members and guide them in the application process for those funds. Our members also receive access to the incredible employee benefits programs available through the Chamber Benefits Plan. Last year, we managed to put together a few events, including a very successful socially distanced golf tournament, and we look forward to organizing a couple more of those this coming summer. We also had fun putting a new online virtual twist on the Santa Claus parade. We'll just have to see how the rest of this year proceeds. No matter what, we will be there to support our members and our community. Now looking forward to hearing the updates from our mayor and township. I'll turn it back to you, Jonathan.
Thanks very much, Michael. The first speaker we have today is our mayor, Bobbie Drew. Bobbie has lived in Port Perry for most of her life. She was Secretary Treasurer of the Scugog Chamber of Commerce for 9 years. Her political career encompasses 12 years as a trustee, retiring as vice chair. She moved on to municipal politics and served as your Ward 2 councillor for 2 terms, followed by 2 terms as regional councillor, and was then elected mayor in 2018. Bobbie has served on numerous committees and has initiated and chaired the Healthy Lake Scugog Steering Committee. As mayor, Bobbie is committed to improving our roads and infrastructure and providing the services for a healthy and active community. Sensitive to the environment and extremely proud of our heritage, Bobbie continues her efforts that'll make Scugog an even better place to live, invest, and prosper. And I should mention that she was recently elected chair of the Durham Regional Police Services Board. Please welcome our guest today, Mayor Bobbie Drew.
Thank you, John, and I'm happy to be here virtually. 2020 brought some changes in the organization. Wait for that slide to come up. And I'll introduce our members of council. And there they are. No changes there since 2018. Very happy to have this council that's very supportive of staff and the community. And special thank you to all of them. And introducing today our new CAO, Ken Nix, as some of the changes in our organization, and to our new Director of Finance, Treasurer Laura Barta. And we had to say goodbye to our clerk, JP Newman, and very sad to see him go, but he's had some great opportunities for his future. We thank him for his service. And joining in today also is Robin Prentice, our Manager of Planning, who will provide an update on the development in Scugog. I will begin by highlighting some of the key strategic priorities that are happening in Scugog. 2021 is set to be a very busy year for council and staff. So much happening: road and infrastructure projects, waterfront, and in development. Scugog declared a state of emergency last March, and that activated the emergency control group, enabling a quick response to adhere to orders and closing facilities. We developed protocols and modified buildings to safely reopen and reduce risks to public and staff. Under the red control, we continue to provide all municipal services via phone, email, virtual platforms, and Dropbox for documents and payments. Council and committee meetings are conducted virtually. The recreation staff redeployed to parks to reduce costs, maintain our level of service, and keep full-time staff employed. We provided space for COVID-19 testing and flu shot clinics at no charge. We've proactively managed finance, carefully monitoring costs and revenue losses to ensure positive bottom line at the end of the year. Members of the Emergency Control Group continue to meet regularly and work with the province and regional health. We have supported local business, promoting online and curbside pickup options, and liaising with Invest Durham for business resources, free digital solutions, and support to Pivot Business, and the Digital Main Street and Shop Durham. The majority of financial relief comes from the federal and provincial governments, and they have reduced education portion of the commercial industrial property tax bill to save those approximately $500 a year. Scugog Library launched popular online versions of regular programs, contactless pickup and self-checkup. Scugog joined to form the Small Urban GTHA Mayors Committee, which is comprised of 12 rural small urban municipalities, and we advocate for municipal issues during COVID and beyond. At this point, I'd like to invite our new CAO, Ken Nix, to provide an update on initial impressions. Our delivery of services continues, and I'll be back following our update on development.
There we go. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. We look forward to the rest of your presentation a little bit later on. Our next speaker is fairly new to his current role, but certainly not in the business of managing organizations. Ken Nix was appointed Chief Administrative Officer for the Township of Scugog in October 2020. In his capacity as CEO, he was responsible for leading, directing, and managing all organizational and operational services for the municipality. Prior to joining the township, Ken worked with the town of Whitby as a Commissioner of Corporate Services for 20 years. He's a chartered professional accountant with a Bachelor of Commerce degree from McMaster. Ken and his wife, Kathy, have raised their 3 children and live in Scugog and have lived there for 20 years. Please welcome the CAO of the Township of Scugog, Mr. Ken Nix.
Thank you, Jonathan. I have to say it's been a very strange experience to start a new job during the pandemic, especially for someone like me who believes in collaboration and talking to people to understand and solve issues. At this point, there are very few staff at the municipal office. There's limited opportunities to engage the community. And I really miss those 5-minute bumps where we, either at events or in the office, where we get to just talk about things. And it really gives you a feel of what's happening and frames the issues affecting the municipality. As a result, we're doing our best to communicate, but for anybody who has started in a COVID environment, I'm sure they feel like myself, you're almost in a bubble and it almost doesn't seem real. When I was considering the move to Scugog, I heard of the great staff and council at the township and all the efforts that were taking place to modernize and prepare for the future. And it really made me interested in this role. I have not been disappointed since I came. I'm finding the mayor and council to be thoughtful, willing to listen to staff on issues, even though they don't always agree. And as staff, that's all you can ask for. So that all you can ask for is that they listen to you and then make an informed decision in terms of what they want to do. In terms of our staff, I was initially surprised at how few there were, but I'm also so impressed by how much staff has got done and how they always look at different ways to do things and how dedicated and knowledgeable they are in serving the citizens of Scugog. They truly work as a team and pitch in to get things done. Scugog's response to COVID was much different than it was down south. And it was really impressive to look at. We were proactive in finding ways to mitigate the financial impacts in the short term, but still keeping many of the services and programs running over the last year in one form or another. And this was done in a fashion that was safe for both the residents and for staff. I can't say enough about how much was accomplished by my predecessor, Paula Lohr, staff, and our council to set a base for the future. A lot of the work went into needed foundational work, things like setting needed policy, creating sustainable efficiencies, undertaking a strategic plan, identifying and supporting needed investments in our assets, and beginning to look at technology in addition to much else. All of this is important to set the base for the future. However, I recognize there's a lot more to do to continue the momentum, which we will talk about in a few minutes. One of the other initial impressions that I noticed is the development that is happening in Scugog. I come from a very high development area, and I was pleasantly surprised. Even though I live here, I was pleasantly surprised to see that the community is growing. It is healthy for our community to grow, and it's great for many reasons, including creating an opportunity for our youth to remain in the community. However, like many things, growth is not easy, and there's always another side. I'm not sure that everyone is prepared for what it means in terms of bringing different views and different expectations from the new residents, as well as the pressure it ultimately will put on the tax base. Growth, although needed for our community and healthy, is not cheap. There's a lot to do. However, realistically, our funding, the technology available, and our staff capacity limit what realistically can be achieved. It is something you'll hear me say a lot. And as a result, we need to focus and make sure that we can deliver on our expectations, because realistically, we just cannot do everything for everybody. Obviously, one of the first priorities will be COVID, and the impacts it has on services that we deliver will continue to be a priority. The COVID environment over 2021 is uncertain. We must continue delivering services to the extent possible in a safe manner. And whatever we do, we must be prepared for the delivery of services in a post-COVID environment. So we always have to look beyond the current year. Our infrastructure is one of the key priorities that has been identified in the past. We continue to focus on increasing our investment in our assets so they remain safe and usable at the lowest cost to the municipality. I'm not sure if everybody realizes this, but Scugog Township is responsible for almost $500 million worth of assets. And we maintain that with our share of the property tax bill, which is about 30%. Something a lot of people don't realize is there's studies that have been done that indicate that property tax bills account for about 10 to 12% of the average taxes paid by the average household in Ontario. That means Scugog's portion is roughly 3% of the average taxes paid by the average household in Ontario. It seems like a lot because you get a bill for this for our taxes, but you know, when you consider what all we do and take care of our assets as well as the services we provide, you know, it is something that I've always considered a reasonable investment in your home community. You know, in terms of taking care of our assets, it's one of the easiest things to kick down the road and defer your investment in the assets. However, there is a cost benefit to investing in your assets at the right time and doing the right type of maintenance. I look at it very simply, like I look at my vehicle. I drive a lot. If I don't put if I don't do regular oil changes, I know that ultimately my engine will fail. I'll have unexpected failures and increased costs well above what I would have if I just continued to do regular maintenance on my vehicle. So it's something, you know, when we look at assets that way, we have to remember, we have to put the money in at the right time and the right type of investment. But don't, you know, we can't avoid it. We can't kick it down the road. Recent studies have shown that we are not putting enough money into our assets. We have about $190 million spending deficit in roads alone, which is surprising. And of over 100 million of that is identified as immediate needs. Obviously, we cannot fix everything at once, but we must continue to invest and increase the funds available for fixing our assets and maintaining our assets so that they're usable and safe in the future. If not, we'll continue to look at bridge failures. Roads will deteriorate, facilities won't be available, and snowplows won't be there to respond to storm events. So it just underlies the importance of needing to keep that long-term focus and the discipline in investing in our asset. Municipality recently has put a significant investment in technology, especially over the last year to deal with COVID. But in my opinion, we need to magnify that investment. We need to magnify it significantly so that we can provide the information and tools to help make informed decisions, create efficiencies as we grow, and respond to customer service demands in today's wired world. I see firsthand how staff work to deliver good customer service. The demands are increasing, expectations are changing. Residents want information now. They want questions answered quickly. And unfortunately, at this moment, we don't have the right tools to be able to meet the needs of the residents in all areas. However, this is one area where investment in technology will be a key tool in helping us deliver and deliver on the expectations that our residents have for the township. Matching expectations is a common theme we need to address, not only with the items that I've mentioned, but also related to the strategic plan. As I said, the strategic plan that was established was one of the things that interests me with Scugog. It showed a forward-looking municipality and a stepped approach to get there. There were so many great things identified in the strategic plan. It looks really exciting. However, the last year, it stretched our ability to deal with it, and we need to sit back and reevaluate what our priorities are and what we can realistically deliver with the resources available and the funding available. No matter what we do, we have to look long-term. And we have to ensure that we look at the long-term fiscal sustainability and ability to sustain services in this municipality as we move forward. So you will hear me talk about the long-term implications of things in the future on an ongoing basis. And we as staff will always be recommending things based on a long-term view, which is best to remain sustainable. Delivering value to our taxpayers is something I believe in. And one of the reasons I got into municipal work was to give back and help serve the community. I know it sounds hokey, but it's true for me. And when I moved to the municipal sector, I realized how much municipalities do for us as people living in the community. The services provided by the township, the assets we maintain, the programs we provide touch most of us daily, much more than any other level of government. And it helps define the community that we live in and why we want to live in this community. So I'm excited to work with Scugog as a resident and work with the great staff and council as we move forward. And I hope to be able to meet members of the business community as we go forward in the future when this environment gets easier to deal with.
Great, Ken. Thank you very much. There are several questions, or a bunch of questions that came in. I wanted to touch on a couple of them now, if that's all right with you, and get your response to them. The first one is, during a recent discussion at council regarding new revenue perceived from development charges, you cautioned that while these charges inject fresh cash into the municipal coffers, new development can generate long-term financial strains on the community, particularly true of auto-centric greenfield development, which accounts for the vast majority of growth here in the region. Given your experiences at the town of Whitby, could you talk a little bit about the impact of sprawl and how Scugog can facilitate environmentally and physically sustainable development?
I can talk about the fiscal sustainability well. Growth, as I mentioned, is needed. It's a good thing to have in balance. And but the reality is, when you look at all the revenues, you look at all the assessment growth, all the DCs that we get and the other fees, and you look at the costs of constructing the assets that are required for growth, maintaining those assets, and expanding our capacity to deliver services for the new residents, it does cost money. But it doesn't mean it's bad. It's just a reality of what we do. In terms of environmental sustainability, I believe that the current provincial policy planning documents require in Port Perry and Scugog that we develop within the fixed urban boundaries, and that helps with some of the environmentally sustainable issues, because it focuses the area of development and allows us to focus on infill and compact development that's easy to access.
Thank you. Next question is, what opportunities are there for better service to rural communities by the township? For example, road maintenance and internet. There's talk about handing internet management to municipalities from the federal and provincial levels. And we hear about Blackstock, Port Perry, and the island constantly, but what about the remaining areas of the township?
Yeah, there's two pieces to that puzzle. When roads, about 50% of our roads are gravel, and road maintenance is always an issue in a rural environment. But in addition, we're putting a lot of money into maintaining our assets. And in addition to that, we've recently undertaken a study on what else can be done to help rural roads and how we can better invest in those roads. Ultimately, it takes money, and we have to balance that with our competing needs and priorities. In terms of internet access, it is important in today's environment, whether you're a resident or a business. I know a couple of carriers are exploring opportunities for expansion in Caesarea, Blackstock, and Greenbank. The township and region have indicated support for these ventures, and there are other carriers that are in the early stages of providing alternatives for expanded service. In addition, the region's applied for grants to expand the fiber network and to connect the regional and lower tier locations and create an infrastructure for the ISPs.
The next question is, several years ago when Smart Center opened, there was an amount of money given to the township to assist the downtown core during the Smart Center transition. I understand 20,000 of that went to paint the grain elevator, another 20,000 went to the gateway sign, and people are wondering what happened to the remaining money.
Well, I will have to get back to you on that with details. One of the great things about a new job is you're constantly learning, and I have to look into this to understand all of the costs. But in reality, I know there's a couple things. There's the money to paint the grain elevator. There was money for the gateway sign. I know there was money invested on, I believe, a project manager or a waterfront revitalization study. We also did some cleanup of the old mill and some other funds for some provincial signage on highways. But I need to work with staff to develop a full accounting of that, and I'd be glad to do that, to provide that in the future.
Great. Thank you very much. The last question I have here for today, Ken, is in an effort for a continued open dialogue between the residents of Scugog and township departments, how do residents give input on any future construction and housing developments other than the township website question forum? Are the residents no longer allowed to have the opportunity to meet with developers or arborists, as in the past open houses through Zoom and video chats? The technology is available. Is the township going to be offering this option?
Yes, we actually, the municipality has continued things like council meetings and other public meetings utilizing online technology. The traditional methods of public meetings and contacting staff is also still available. However, it's online instead of in person. We have worked at increasing both communication to the public and public engagement in different methods throughout the pandemic. And public meetings are advertised, they're on the website, and residents do have the ability during these meetings to ask questions and discuss other issues with staff. I would recommend that if residents have questions, they contact staff at the municipality who can point them in the right direction in terms of how to get their thoughts across.
Great. Thank you very much, Ken. Very much appreciate your time and your information. Gives us a lot more insight. And congratulations on your new position. I'm sure you've got some challenges ahead of you.
Thank you, Jonathan. And I look forward to working with everyone in the future. And I can't wait till this pandemic begins to normalize.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker today is a manager of planning for the Township of Scugog, Mrs. Robin Prentice. She's a registered professional planner and a member of the Canadian Institute of Planners with a Bachelor of Environmental Studies from the University of Waterloo. Robin has over 14 years of experience in the public sector. Prior to joining the township in 2019, Robin was a principal planner for the town of Whitby, as well as the manager of planning for the township of East Gwillimbury. Please welcome Robin Prentice.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here today, and I'm just going to go through some of the developments that we have around the municipality that we're working at. Just in the north end of Port Perry here, so I'm just going to bring up a series of maps and walk you through some of the developments that we're processing. At the north end of Port Perry, we have the Lalu subdivision that's been approved for some time, but there's been no recent activity on it, and that's been draft approved for 20 single detached dwellings. In the Canterbury Common area, there is approvals that are under construction for 99 singles, as well as a block has been set aside for some multi-residential developments that could look at seniors housing or a retirement home in that area. That block still does require site plan approval. Hopefully we're anticipating an application for that property shortly. In the central part of Port Perry, there are a number of developments off Old Simcoe Road. The Cockers Creek subdivision has been under construction for some time, and there are approximately 137 singles and underground link dwellings in this area that have been constructed over 2 phases. In addition to that, there is the Oxnard subdivision, which is under construction for 40 townhouse units. Oxnard also has a block off Balsam Street, which has been draft approved for 13 single detached dwellings, and those should start construction in the next few years. Down on Highway 7 at Scugog Street is the Jeffrey Home subdivision, and this is under construction for 37 townhouse dwellings, which will be developed on a private condominium lane. In the south end of Port Perry, we also have a number of developments in the varying stages of the application process. The first being the Ribcore Holdings development, which is under construction. 124 single detached dwellings have been approved in this area, which will be constructed over multiple phases. The next one being the Chieftain subdivision, which has been proposed for 27 single detached dwellings. This application we are currently doing some online engagement for and still requires council approval in order to move forward. One of the largest ones we have been processing is the Dell Park Homes subdivision, which is just off of King Street. It is currently proposing 239 single detached dwellings and 78 townhouse units. There would also be a 1 hectare park block and an open space block as part of this subdivision. Again, we are continuing to do some online engagement for this subdivision, and it would still require council approval in order to proceed. One of the more recent applications we've been processing is at the corner of Simcoe Street and King Street, and that's the Magnum General Contracting subdivision. It has been proposed for 80 townhouse dwellings on this lot. And again, these applications were just received last year and applications that we're still processing. There is some online engagement being undertaken as part of that application, and these would still require further approvals through council. On the south side of King Street, we have the Tetra Valley Homes subdivision that's been draft approved for 25 single detached dwellings. This area just requires some servicing connections, so that's what we're dealing with them currently on. There's also the MB residential subdivision in the south end of Port Perry, north of the Prince Albert Public School off of Old Simcoe Road. And they are proposing 11 single detached dwellings, and these would be on partial servicing. So they would have municipal water, but private septic systems. Again, we're doing some online engagement for that development, and they do still require some council approvals. One of the larger developments that has some approvals is the King's Landing mixed-use development, which is at Simcoe and Ollier Street. On the other side of Simcoe Street there, its site plan has been approved for 248 condominium apartment units, as well as some commercial and office space. The sales pavilion is under construction, and we are hoping to work with the applicant or the developer on their building permits and agreements needed in order to move forward with construction on that site. Over on Scugog Island, there are actually 3 subdivisions that have been draft approved. The 23 Estates subdivision was approved for 15 single detached dwellings, but there's been no recent activity on that property at this point in time. 17300 Island Road has been draft approved for 16 single detached dwellings. Any of the lots on the island obviously would be on private water and private sewer or septics. The township is currently working with the developer on the 17300 Island Road one to see if we can get them under construction. The last one there is the Henley Story or Humewood subdivision, which has been draft approved for 13 single detached dwellings. Then into the hamlet areas, we have the Epson subdivision, which has been draft approved for 17 single detached dwellings. We have been working with the developer on the required engineering submission and are close to executing the subdivision agreement on that one. So hopefully we will get some construction going on that shortly. The other one we have is in Nestleton Station, and that's been, well, there is a draft approval there. They have applied to amend that draft approval to permit 36 single detached dwellings. Again, these would be on private servicing, so private well and private septic. And then in addition to the residential development that I just went through, we have a number of non-residential projects that are in the varying stages of development, including the Oak Ridges Hospice, Woodland Mills off Scugog Line 6, the Taylor Ford car dealership off Highway 7A. We also have Two Blokes Cidery off Simcoe Street, Applewood Farm Winery, a proposed hotel off Highway 7A, a proposed gas station in Manchester, and an equestrian event facility in the north end of Green Bank. We have also been working on 2 community improvement plans within Port Perry for the employment area as well as downtown Port Perry. The community improvement plans help to support and attract business and stimulate investment within these specified areas. Council has endorsed the employment area CIP, and staff are working on implementation guidelines that we're hoping to release in the spring of 2021 for public feedback in order to move that program forward. In the downtown, we hope to have draft recommendations ready to present in the fall of 2021, and then we would follow with some approvals of that and an implementation guidelines. And now I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, Robin. Thank you very much. It's an interesting job that you have, actually. It sounds like quite interesting. And I'm sure your tenure, most of it was spent in COVID times, which makes it extra challenging for you. We do have a number of questions. The first one is we're seeing a lot of new construction happening in Port Perry. We understand that this will use up all the capacity remaining in our water treatment plant. Are there plans to expand the water treatment plant to allow for more growth?
So the region.
We've lost your microphone, Robin. No, we're having some difficulty hearing you. I think this is where Adam comes in and does his magic. I suppose I could answer the questions for you. I'm just not sure how legitimate they would be. All right, well, while we're trying to get that fixed, we will explain what's going to happen next. We're going to finish with Robin here. Once we have her sound back on, we'll ask the rest of the questions. And at that point, we will ask the mayor to rejoin us with a number of questions that we have for her, as well as along with the presentation that she's going to do. So this show, as I mentioned before, is being recorded by Rogers, and it will be televised on Rogers starting March the 15th. It will run for the duration of the month on your community channel. You'll have to check your listings to see what that is. I believe it's channel 10. The show will also be on the YouTube channel for the township, for the Scugog Chamber, available at the same time. So I see the township has now totally disappeared off my screen, which is, I'm sure it's just a technical issue, and I believe that they are still there. All right, while they're working with the technical difficulties, you get to see me again. And I could talk about my TV show, but I don't think that's an appropriate thing to do right now either. The Scugog Chamber of Commerce has been out there for quite a while serving the community. They have more than 250 members of the businesses in our community. And they're actually going to be featured along with the BIA representative on my next show, which will air in April on the Jonathan Van Bilsen show.
Hello.
There we go. I hear a voice, and I see.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh, we're much better now. Okay. Do you need me to ask that question again, or are you okay with it?
No, I got it.
All righty.
So the region completed some servicing upgrades to the non-Quan water pollution control plant in 2017, which is why you've started to see an uptake in development in Port Perry. While there are overall limitations and capacity constraints at the non-Quan, the plant is anticipated to handle approximately 15,000 residents. So it can accommodate the units and the applications we're currently dealing with. There is also a constraint at the Port Perry, at the Water Street pumping station. And the region of Durham is currently undertaking an environmental assessment to upgrade this pumping station, which is anticipated to be operational by 2024-2025.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Please advise us of the status of the draft plan approved for King's Landing development. The sales office apparently is an eyesore and has been sitting for quite some time without any progress. Is the project moving forward, or is it delayed, or what's happening there?
Sure. So as I mentioned, we are currently working with the applicant to get their sales center up and going. And we are also working on with them for their ultimate building permit submissions and their agreements that are needed in order to move the development forward.
Okay. Is there additional senior housing planned for Scugog?
Sure. As I did mention, there is one block that has been set aside for multi-unit residential that is proposed to be used for a retirement home or seniors housing. And we're hoping and working with the applicants to get those applications into us so we can process them and get something going.
All righty. And the last question I have is improvements in established settlement areas can sometimes be challenging. Adding a porch, for example, a garage, or even severing a lot and so forth. What opportunities do you see to help make this process easier in order to encourage low impact intensification in urban areas? At the same time, rural land consolidation through superfluous dwelling severances appears to be recommended and approved with little friction. What are your thoughts for slowing erosion of our rural lands in the hands of corporations and speculators?
Sure. So very multifaceted question. I'll start with the urban area first. If you're looking at adding a porch or adding an accessory structure to your property, just come in and check with us and we'll provide you with the zoning requirements that are needed. And then it's just a building permit from there. If you are looking at, one thing that township will be looking at is secondary dwelling units. We know there are some constraints to a few of these areas. So that's something we will be taking a look at this year. And hopefully we can provide some policy amendments to help facilitate more secondary dwelling units within the urban area. With respect to severances within the urban area, there are a number of factors that we need to consider when we're looking at a severance application, including compatibility with adjacent lots. We take a look at the zoning requirements, driveway entrances, servicing connections. So a number of factors have to be taken into consideration. With respect to the rural area and agricultural area, in accordance with provincial policies and primarily the Greenbelt and Oak Ridges Moraine plans, these do limit severances in these areas to try and protect the larger farm properties. They do allow for severances of surplus farm dwellings where a farmer is consolidating their operations across a number of properties, but don't necessarily need all the houses associated with them. So while we can permit certain severances of those houses, they do have to rezone so that no further dwellings are permitted. So it's not creating additional dwelling units within the rural area.
Great, thank you very, very much. And thank you for enlightening us and your expertise. It's greatly appreciated. I would like to, at this time, before we bring the mayor back, I just wanted to thank our generous sponsors again for making this event a success. So please welcome Her Worship, Mayor Bobbie Drew.
So as Mr. Nix indicated, council and staff need to review and reprioritize our objectives with challenges. Our first priority is delivery of services during COVID. We have to step back and evaluate the remaining strategic priorities, taking into consideration our capacity, technology, and capital funding, including future grants with other priorities facing the municipality. This will allow us to communicate what is achievable to the community. We've completed the township traffic analysis. That's a speed and flow of traffic. We hope to complete active transportation and the transportation master plan. We will assist Durham Health in mass vaccination clinics in the spring and summer of this year. And task force is being created along with the terms of reference. Members will be comprised of local businesses and community members. And looking at some of the challenges faced through the pilot last year, this is of the open streets on Queen Street in Port Perry, and how we can address the concerns and issues raised since then to make an informed decision on what is required to move forward. Ken spoke about the importance of infrastructure. It remains a priority. Here are a few of our capital projects coming forward. The implementation of road rehab, Highway 7A to Edgerton Road. We're not getting the slide. There it is. Okay, we're looking at McLaughlin Road rehab, and that's from Highway 7A to Edgerton Road. And Devitt's Road rehab, that's from RR 57 to Cartwright East Quarterline. We're looking at designs for Queen Street, Perry Street, Old Simcoe Road, and Williams Point Road reconstruction. Design for the replacement of the bridge on Scugog Line 8, and a continuation of the sidewalk replacement infill program. We continue to work with upper levels of government to advocate on behalf of Scugog. We work hard to advocate on behalf of our residents and businesses in a rural community. We're looking at Island Road safety improvements, reduce the speed in sections, signage improvements, and line painting at intersections. MTO is also changing left-hand turning lane at 7A and Island Road. Sewer pumping station upgrade is coming. The location will be in the Birdseye Park vicinity. And we are advocating to advance timing for sanitary sewer pumping station to service Port Perry employment lands. The OMPF, which is the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund, is being reviewed by the province. Funds will continue in 2021. This would have a significant impact to the township if that's reduced. Gas tax allocation distribution is based on census population information. The provincial allocation is entirely dedicated to transit by the region. Revised distribution formula is needed for municipalities with low growth, low population, and high infrastructure needs. Provincial compensation funding to offset growth constraints. It's attributed to Greenbelt and Oak Ridges Moraine legislation. We will continue to advocate and apply for funding opportunities, especially for our large priority projects like LCEP. LCEP is the Lake Scugog Enhancement Project, and it's very important to me and to the council. We can all agree that our waterfront is a jewel in our community. We're not losing sight of this. This is a major priority. Health of our lake dictates the health of the community. LCEP is an environmental improvement, water quality, and dredging project for Port Perry Bay. Tourism, boating, fishing, ice fishing, snowmobiling, bringing visitors to Scugog. The benefits attributed specifically to Lake Scugog are estimated at $38.8 million per year, of which $34.1 million is attributed to recreation and aesthetics. The source of this information is for the Economic Case for Natural Infrastructure in Ontario and the Greenbelt Foundation Occasional Papers, and that was December 2019. The estimated cost of this project is 4.7 to 5.25 million, subject to the final design. We are reliant on funding through major grants. The design is nearly complete, and we're hoping for our permit approvals very soon. And once we get the design complete, we will have a more accurate accounting of what the estimated cost is. But we're working towards a fall start for the project, but it will depend on funding. We keep going with grant opportunities, we'll not give up, and we will explore all options to fund this project. A healthy lake means a healthy community for residents and visitors to enjoy. In non-COVID times, we want to welcome back visitors. The Waterfront Action Plan is also moving forward. The lands being reviewed include the boat launch to Voss Independent. We've had numerous consultation sessions held over the past 12 to 18 months, engaging all demographics with amazing participation from the community. The emerging preferred plan is available for public review and comment at scugog.ca/mywaterfront. The final report is to be presented to council in the spring of 2021. And there are improvements coming for along the waterfront. Council has been involved throughout the Waterfront Action Plan consultation process. We're still awaiting council approval on the final report, but some immediate projects were slated to complement the overall actions and continue to enhance our waterfront. The replacement of the Palmer Park Playground, heavily used playground in our township, and the replacement of the Joe Fowler Picnic Shelter. In conjunction with the Waterfront Action Plan, the extension of the docks at the Port Perry boat launch is also planned. Waterfront action items have been identified with the input of stakeholders and the community. Community engagement is key to our success. My Scugog, our community launched a new engagement platform to manage public consultation, surveys, feedback, and seek input from the community. In lieu of the annual Mayor's Levy, we launched Celebrate Community Heroes. Thank you to all of our community volunteers who stepped up during the pandemic to help their community. Stories of neighbors, organizations nominated by the people of Scugog are there for you to enjoy. We are continuing to enhance public consultations on many aspects, engaging our community and our neighbors, the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation. We are enhancing our communications as well. We do the monthly mayor's message in the local papers, the monthly Scugog Town Talk Show on Radio 105.5 Hits FM, just did that yesterday. Joint video updates with regional chair and 8 area mayors. And Talk Politics Rogers interviews. And there's a one upcoming on March the 8th. I got to get ready for that. And we provide video updates following each council meeting. And now I will accept some questions and thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. The first question is, the current provincial government is issuing an unprecedented number of zoning orders, which enable development in restricted areas by circumventing environmental acts, conservation plans, and local planning requirements, often at the request of municipalities, especially here in Durham. Have you or would you consider requesting these orders from the province to unlock land for development in Scugog?
Well, we understand that there are developers looking at this option in Scugog, but there's nothing formal at this point. The township is not planning to bring forward a request. However, if an MZO is issued, the township will go forward under the parameters specified in the order.
With the savings COVID has offered to municipal costs, why are taxes going up? Why can't it be held at 2020 levels for the time being?
I'm going to get our CAO, Mr. Nix, to help
Thank
with
you.
that one.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to not get into the picture so that we don't have to do our COVID shuffle, but I'd be glad to answer that. As I mentioned previously, we need to continually look forward and look long-term when we're addressing issues in this municipality. We have a lot of pressures that occur on a regular basis. However, staff and council were very proactive in addressing the pandemic impacts in 2020, as you realize, but they were short-term options that really are not sustainable in the long run. However, in 2021, there's a lot of uncertainty related to the impacts of COVID. We really don't know what the impacts are going to be. So as a result, we planned on a normal year, and we have a reserve to be able to cushion us if we need additional funds related to the COVID environment. But despite all the pressures from COVID, our demand for municipal services has continued. Staff and council reviewed ways to save money and revenue increases where possible, but there were a lot of pressures that were outside of our control that outweighed the revenues that were coming in. However, in addition, that investment in our infrastructure that I mentioned previously, we can't put that off. If we put it off, it's going to cost the municipality more in the longer term. So it's important for us to maintain discipline to go forward and invest in our assets. That was the majority of the increase for 2021. About 80% of the increase was dedicated towards continuing that investment in assets. So the way we budgeted this year, it allows us to accommodate the uncertainty for COVID. It allows us to continue the existing service delivery. It increases our investment into our assets to help reduce the overall cost for the taxpayers of Scugog. I hope that answers the question, John.
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly is an excellent answer. It's a very complex question without question. In the last minute or so that we have left.
John, could I interrupt for a second? I'd just like to add, I should have been better prepared. I should have known that there was going to be a question about taxes. But I'd like to add, please, that the Scugog property tax bill is collected for 3 service levels: Scugog, the region, and the school boards. The total increase will be 2.58% on your tax bill, with 1.5% going to Scugog, primarily to support the roads. In dollars, the Scugog portion is $5.71 a month. So I just wanted to reiterate that. I know that we talked about it at council meetings, but very confusing out there with all of these percentages. And I think that the people of Scugog are really interested in how it's going to affect their tax bill. So the bottom line is it's 2.58%.
Great, thank you very much. In the last minute that we have left, I wanted to just very quickly get an overview of what you see the top 3 priorities for the township, for yourself, the remainder of this year, next year, the remainder of your term.
Well, first of all, there's a number of priorities, but you want the top 3. So I would say COVID, certainly, we need to continue to respond to the needs along with the funding and then look to recovery. Certainly, as has been mentioned many times in today's presentation, the infrastructure needs, the roads, as well as funding opportunities for the major projects. The waterfront, including the lake and the waterfront action plan, will need further funding to achieve, but we'll keep working on those important projects.
Great, thank you very much. Madam Mayor, thank you very much for your time, and as well as folks that work with you. We very much appreciate the information that you've shared with us. Before we wrap up, I just wanted to ask the chair of the Scugog Council, or sorry, the Scugog Chamber, sorry, to wrap up with a few words. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan, and thank you to the mayor and township staff for the great updates. I know it can be difficult to keep your community informed of what you're working on, and we're happy to provide a medium for that. I'd like to reach out again to thank our sponsors, Dana's Goldsmithing, Port Perry Auto Glass and Trim, PP Print and Digital Services, and Voss Independent. Their support is greatly appreciated. Now, we have some events coming up. Next month, we'll be hosting another virtual update from Dr. Stephen Gray, the CEO of Medical Associates of Port Perry, who has also recently been appointed the chair of the Oak Ridges Hospice. He will give us a brief on vaccination updates, as well as providing some advice for businesses to navigate through the rules and requirements of reopening. We are also looking forward to hosting future updates from regional and provincial government, and we'll keep our community informed of these events as they come up. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be organizing 2 golf tournaments later this year and really look forward to that. We are pondering various ways of presenting a home and garden show this year. Let's see how that works. And although a craft beer festival is up in the air, optimistically, we'd like to try. Certainly not shutting the door on that one. We will also be organizing the Port Perry Santa Claus Parade again this year, and we'll just have to wait to see how it comes together for December. I'd like to invite any business owner not currently a member to inquire with us how you can join to get access to the supports available. It's important to be active in the local community and to support each other during these trying times. To quote my friend Jonathan here, community involvement is a great thing. This is important both at a business level and simply as people helping people. The Chamber of Commerce is here to support our members and our community. Thank you again, and back to John at the studio.
Thanks very much, Michael. I'm really looking forward to that virtual craft beer festival. That brings the 2021 Mayor's Virtual Update to an end. This program, as I mentioned before, will be available on Rogers TV and the Scugog Chamber's website starting March the 15th. I'm Jonathan Van Bilsen, and thank you very much for joining us today.